Welcome to the video quiz for sections 8.1 and 8.2. Alright, so how can you tell if a number is a solution? Well, you take that number and you substitute it in where you see the variable. So in this case it says, is 3/4 a solution of 5x plus 3 equals 9x? And so I've got to put 3/4 in where I see those x's, and we'll see if it creates a true statement. So 5 times 3/4 plus 3, does that equal 9 times 3/4? Well, I've got to do a little bit of math to figure that out. So 5 times 3/4. Now, if you're not good at fractions, you need to grab that calculator and you need to type it in. 5 times 3/4 is 15/4 plus 3 equals, and to multiply 9 times 3/4, that is 27/4. Now, if I want to add 15/4 plus 3, I need a common denominator, which is going to be 4. So I created 12/4. Again, this is something that you really should know by now. 12/4 is the same thing as 3. Now, whenever I add my numerators only. 15 plus 12 is 27, and 27/4 does equal 27/4, so I would say yes. Alright, for these two equations, I'm going to solve the one on the left first. So y minus 3.8 is equal to 10. To solve this, I would do the opposite of what's happening with the variable. So I would add 3.8 to both sides. Now we do that because we want to create 0 right here, and you have a minus 3.8 and you have a plus 3.8. Those create 0. So I'm left with y on the left hand side. 10 plus 3.8 is 13.8. Make sure that whenever you write your answers, you have variable is equal to a number. Alright, on the equation on the right, we want to subtract 5 from both sides. So m, that created 0, is equal to negative 6 minus 5 is negative 11. There's our answer. Alright, so on these two equations, we have to first simplify, and you can only combine like terms when they're on the same side of the equal sign. So on the equation on the left, I've got 9x minus 8x, which are like terms. Then I also have a positive 5 and a positive 14 that are like terms. So I'm going to simplify my variable first. So 9x minus 8x is plain old x. 5 plus 14 is plus 19 equals 20. Now we're going to subtract 19 from both sides. And if you want to test that, you sure can. Try it out, plug it in, see if it works. So 9 times 1, I don't do this to all the problems, but if I were working this on a test, I sure would. And I want to see if that equals 20. 9 plus 5 minus 8 plus 14, does that equal 20? 9 plus 5 is 14. 14 minus 8 is, what, 6? 6 plus 14 is 20, so 20 does equal 20. So I know that I did this problem right. If I were working this on a test, I would love to know that. Alright, so let's look at this problem on the right. First thing you need to do is you need to get rid of those parentheses. So I would distribute a negative 5 times each of those. And I say negative 5 because of that right there, that sign in front of it. Even though it's a minus, it also indicates, if you did change, it indicates that that is a negative 5. So I'm just rewriting this, I'm bringing it straight down. A negative 5 times a is negative 5a. Negative 5 times negative 2 is a positive 10. This I brought straight down. Okay, now I want to combine my like terms. So these guys are like terms, and these guys are like terms. So 6a minus 5a is just plain old a. 10 plus 9 is 19. Now I need to subtract 19 from both sides. And I get that a is equal to negative 30. And again, you can check this to put negative 30 in everywhere you see a, and then simplify. And it should, the left side should equal the right side. Alright, so on these two, we are translating into an equation and solving. So difference means subtraction. So the difference of 9x and 8x is 17. 9x minus 8x is means equals 17. Combine your like terms. 9x minus 8x is just plain old x, or 1x if you want to write the 1. So we have that x is equal to 17. That's our final answer. We didn't have to add or subtract anything from both sides. We just had to simplify, and it wound up being exactly what we were looking for. Sum means addition. So this is negative right here. It's hard to see, but there is a negative in front of that 4n. So we've got sum of negative 4n. Oops, hang on. Is means equals. I'm going to combine these like terms, and I get 1n or just n. And there you go. We're done. Alright, so in this one we are translating and solving again. Pablo's father is 3 years older than his mother. Pablo's mother is 42 years old. How old is his father? Sometimes it helps to underline what the question is asking. How old is his father? So I'm going to let A equal Pablo's father's age. Okay? And I know that his father is 3 years older than his mother. So here's Pablo's mother's age. If I add 3 to that, I get A for Pablo's father's age. Okay, there's lots of ways to do this. You could take Pablo's father's age and subtract 3 to get 42. That's another way to write it. I don't really care as long as you write down what you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking, and that way I can grade your work. So if I add these guys together, I get 45 is equal to A. Check this out. On the right side, if I add 3 to both sides, I still get 45. So Pablo's father is 45 years old. On these two, we are now multiplying with our variable. And so in order to undo multiplication, you have to do the opposite of multiplication. Opposite of multiplication is division. So you always, always, always divide by the number that's in front of the variable. So I want to divide by 8. Divide by 8. What you do to one side, go do the other. So I've got 8 divided by 8 is 1. So I've got 1x, or x, is equal to 24 divided by 8 is 3. Now again, on the right hand problem, let's take a look at that. So I've got negative 72 is equal to 12. Why? You always divide by the number that's in front of the variable. So I want to divide both sides by 12. And so I get negative 6 is equal to y. In these two problems, we are dividing, and so how do you undo division? What's the opposite of division? The opposite is multiplication. So you've got, on the left-hand problem, you've got x divided by 4 is equal to 16. You undo that with multiplication, so multiply both sides by 4. That creates 1. It cancels each other out. X is equal to 16 times 4 is 64. And so if you try this out, again, I won't check all of my problems, but on this one, let me show you. If I take 64 and I put it in for x, so 64 divided by 4, is that equal to 16? Grab your calculators, try it out. 64 divided by 4 is 16. So there you go. Alright, the problem on the right. Again, our variable is being divided by -5, and you undo division with multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by -5. -5 times -20 is positive 100. These guys canceled each other out, so I'm left with just plain old Q. So Q is equal to 100. Again, you can check that out. Try it out. Make sure that it works. Okay, now these problems are just a little bit different because they do have fractions with them. Oh goodness, the one on the right, I forgot the variable. Here, hang on. So let's put an X right there, okay? Alright, so on the one on the left, 3/5 R is equal to 15. Now, you could divide both sides by 3/5, but remember, dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I don't really care if you show this step right here or if you show this step. You can go ahead and show that you are multiplying by the reciprocal. See how the 5's cancel over here and the 3's cancel each other, so that you're left with just plain old R. And on the right hand side, I'm left with 25. Again, I would show this one if I was using a calculator strictly. I would do the one on the bottom if I had to do this by hand. Okay, so the one on the right, the problem on the right, you can show that you're dividing by -3/4. And again, if you're using a calculator, just type it in. Be careful that you type it in the correct order. Be careful that you type in 24 divided by -3/4. If you type it in the other direction, you're going to get the wrong answer. So, if I had to do this by hand, though, I would do this. I would multiply by the reciprocal. And so 3 will go into 24 8 times, and -4 times 8 is -32. Okay, on these two problems, go ahead and draw that right now. On the left one, I need to combine my like terms, and all three of these are like terms. So 8a plus 3a is 11a. 11a minus 6a is 5a. -17 plus 27 is positive 10. Now, in order to solve this, I need to divide both sides by 5. So a is equal to 2. And these problems are no different. You can check your work on these as well. So you would have 8 times 2 plus 3 times 2 minus 6 times 2. Does that equal -17 plus 27? So I've got 16 plus 6 minus 12. Does that equal 10? 16 plus 6 is 22. 22 minus 12 is 10. So it looks like we did good there. Alright, the problem on the right. Again, if you're not good at fractions, then grab your calculator and type in 7/8 minus 3/4, okay? I'm actually pretty good at fractions, so I'm going to do 7/8, and I'm going to change this into a common denominator. And I'm going to go ahead and add those guys. So 7 minus 6 is 1. So I've got 1/8 n is equal to 11. Now check this out. If I multiply by the reciprocal, I'm really multiplying by 8/1, which is just 8. So I've got n is equal to 88. Okay, on this problem, Darla paid $36.25 for 5 children's tickets at the ice skating rink. Find the price of each ticket, P, by solving the equation 5P equals 36.25. They were nice and they gave us the equation. So to solve this, you would divide both sides by 5. And again, I'm going to grab my calculator and I'm going to type in, you got to do this in the right order, 36.25 divided by 5, and I get 7.25. This is a word problem though. This number or decimal of 7.25 is not going to be good enough. You have to label it 7.25 what? $7.2, $7.25 per child's ticket. Alright, there you go. Hope that you got a good score on this quiz.